Collaboration is, and I like the bottom paragraph, or the bottom definition, it's a recursive process where where two or more people or organizations work together to realize shared goals by sharing knowledge, learning, and building consensus. Notice the whole emphasis is on sharing information in some way. It's not about just a place to dump your files. We're going to say it many times during the course of the day. SharePoint is not a data dump. We've seen some people with sites where suddenly they need huge increases in the amount of space because they've got over 9,000 shared documents, but some of the documents are several years old. No one really knows what they are. No one even knows if they've ever been used recently. It's not a place to just dump files and leave it. It's a place where you're going to be sharing information. Also, part of the definition is that when you look around, whatever the cause is, task or mission, it probably won't take long until you find progress is hindered by a lack of awareness, lack of cooperation, duplicated efforts, wasted resources, ineffectiveness, and outright conflict. Now that's the rest of the world. That never happens in OCPS, right? So you don't really have to worry about that, but if you ever work with SharePoint somewhere else, you might encounter those problems. But as I mentioned, collaboration is not a data dump. It's not a place just to throw all your files out and then forget about them. It's not a file archive. Again, that's pretty much what a data dump is. It is not a place for only the administration to post information to the rest of the staff. It's a place for all the staff to post information that other members of the staff need to know. It's not a replacement for your school transfer folders. Those still exist. You should still use those. Some areas of what collaboration is, first in terms of organizing, it will help keep your team connected. Your entire school, your curriculum area, your grade level can have sites where they can keep track of meetings or keep track of information that needs to be passed between those members at any given time. You're allowed to store and sync current active documents, emphasis on current active. There's a ability to store some files in a SkyDrive, and it's going to get renamed at some point, but for right now we'll call it SkyDrive, within your profile. And we'll talk a little bit more about profiles later in the day, and you'll see where that comes into play. And you'll be able to keep track of projects. This is sort of a hidden feature that a lot of people don't use. There's actually a type of list inside SharePoint called a task list. And if you create a task list specifically for a project and then create individual tasks for each thing that has to get done, assign those tasks to people. As soon as you assign the task, that person gets a notification automatically by email. They can go in and they can update the task in terms of percent complete, what things they're working on or what problems they may have at any given task level. And the person in charge of the entire project can then do a report online that SharePoint generates. It's a Gantt chart type report to show the status of the project and the status of all the tasks so that they can manage that project a little bit easier. It is not a replacement for Microsoft Project or Project Server. However, given that it's built in and it's free in effect, it might be a good tool to use if you've got very simple tasks or simple projects that you need to track. Sharing your stuff, basically anything that other people need to know about, whether it's documents, spreadsheets, images, slideshows, whatever. It's a place where you can put that information and let other people view it. One of the things that we're going to kind of rant on during the course of the day is people who always attach files to their emails. When you're attaching a file to an email, you're increasing the size of that email, sometimes substantially. Sometimes those attachments are a megabyte, 2 megabytes in size. And that fills up not only your mailbox, because it goes into your sent mailbox, which counts against your total amount of allocated space, but it also fills up the other person's mailbox. How many times have you tried to send something to someone that says their mailbox is full? Well, that's possibly because they have so many emails that had attachments, it filled up the space faster than they realized. So what we're going to encourage you to do is not to use attachments with your emails, but to put the files in your collaboration site and then put a link to those files inside the email. That takes far less space, far more efficient, won't fill up your email box, won't fill up other people's. You can take SharePoint on the go. With this version of SharePoint, which by the way is 2013, you guys have been running WSS 3.0, which is equivalent to SharePoint 2007. So you're actually skipping over 2010, going right to 2013. And because of the way we're implementing it on district servers, you're no longer going to be restricted to being within OCPS's network. You don't have to worry about even having a VPN connection. You'll be able to access your site from anywhere you have an internet connection. Yes, you'll have to log in order to make changes, but you will be able to access it from anywhere. Even if you have a tablet, an iPad, or one of the other Android tablets, you'll be able to access your site as long as you have an internet connection. Being able to put social to work, sharing ideas and discovering answers and keeping track of what your colleagues are working on is part of what social really means. It's not just talking about, well, what did you do last night? Did you see that game that was on? Or did you watch that movie that was on? It's not about those things. It's about how you share information with your colleagues over the various work tasks. Managing costs. Currently, because every school has their own server, we essentially are looking at about 180 plus servers out across the entire district running SharePoint for the schools. We've been able to consolidate that down with this project down to about 6 or 7 servers. They're a little bit beefier, but overall we save a tremendous amount of money as a district by running them centrally. And that was part of the justification for this project. Another justification is it helps to manage risk. In the past, the individual people at the schools were responsible to make sure that their system was backed up. We know that didn't happen. And we know it didn't happen because we've gotten phone calls from frantic principals wanting to know if we can restore their SharePoint system that someone deleted, or they had some problem, it got corrupted, and they need to go to a backup. And in the past, when you had individual servers, we had no ability to do that at all. So if they did not have a backup that was being made locally, there was nothing we could do. Their information was lost. And that did happen a few times in the past couple years. So we will be doing backups. We do backups weekly as a full backup and an incremental backup nightly. So you should be able to get restored back to the previous day. And we keep backups for about 20 days. We don't keep much longer than that, primarily because the amount of space that's required. When you look at all these sites and all the content, it takes a tremendous amount of storage space to keep these backups. So we only keep about 20 days. So if you come back to us and ask us, we deleted something 4 months ago, can you restore it for us? The answer is going to be no, because we only keep 20 days. Better management of your time. Because the servers were local to the individual schools, someone had to go in and make sure that those servers were kept up to date, that they had the latest patches, the latest cumulative updates, the latest service packs, whatever, so that they would be effectively running all the software. And I say all the software because it's not just SharePoint. It was SharePoint, SQL Server, and the operating system generally. You guys don't have to worry about that anymore because we'll be handling that. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we implement service packs and cumulative updates a little bit later. With the use of the profile, you'll be able to find experts on different topics. And when we talk about the profile, we'll show you a little bit how that works. But if you put in information about things that you feel that you're really good at and that you enjoy doing, someone else in the school might be looking for that capability. When they do a search for that particular skill, they might find that, yes, you have that skill and you enjoy doing a certain type of thing, and they'll be able to contact you and maybe get some help on their project. And that's one of the things that when we talk about profiles later, that might be very useful if everyone in the school implements it. If only 1 or 2 people implement it, it's not going to really get a lot of use. It's more of the type of thing everyone needs to use that capability. Discovering insights and answers, more of a high-end topic from the standpoint that it's the integration of SharePoint with other tools like Excel, Power Pivot, Power View, and even analysis services, so that you can be able to take data that you have somewhere else in your system and display that data through SharePoint so that people can interact with it and maybe discover new patterns, trends, just what's going on with all of their data. Find what you're looking for. The search engine in SharePoint 2013 is much improved over the search engines from previous versions of SharePoint. The advantages of some of the new searches, as long as you are using unique words. This is the caveat that I have to tell everybody, because they'll go out and they'll type in something like calendar. I want to find the calendar. Well, what calendar? If you think about the entire district, there's hundreds of calendars. Every school has a calendar. The district has a calendar. Then you can start going down and looking at within departments. They might have calendars. An athletic department may have a calendar, and so forth, all the way through. You wind up with several hundred calendars. So just searching on the word calendar isn't going to be enough. It's a matter of what do you need to define more carefully what type of calendar you're looking for. And the same is true of Google. If you have a very generic word that you search for in Google, you're going to get hundreds of thousands of hits. And you may not see in the first couple of pages the item that you really want because you haven't defined it well enough yet. So it's a matter of picking the right terms when you search. But the most recent search engine that's built into SharePoint is very good, very fast. It's just a matter of making sure you get relevant terms. Collaboration can be integrated with Outlook, and we'll show a little bit of that as well today. The fact that you're going to be able to integrate calendars that are in SharePoint with your local calendars, and you can transfer tasks between SharePoint task list and your Outlook task list. Those are things that can help you be more effective in terms of managing your day and figuring out what you need to get done in any given day. Outlook can also serve as a container for shared documents that can be worked on offline. The advantage to that is you can take the documents with you. You don't have to worry about an internet connection. As long as you have your machine with Outlook on it, you can open them up. They appear almost as if they're an email in the container. You open up the document, work on the document, save it, and the next time you connect to the internet, it will try to resync those changes back to SharePoint. So Outlook integration is kind of an interesting tool when you talk about collaboration. We also use Office Web Apps, and the advantage of Office Web Apps is it allows you to view documents online from any location. You don't have to have at that location Microsoft Office. So let's say that you're at somebody else's house or you're on vacation and the principal contacts you and needs you to go out and make a change to a Word document or an Excel file. Many times, well, you should always be able to open it for viewing, and many times you can edit. The difference between viewing and editing is that if you're using any special feature when you're creating the document, some features will not open and be editable within Office Web Apps. However, Office Web Apps will display it. So as long as you have relatively simple Word documents or relatively simple spreadsheets, it should be able to open up those documents and allow you to edit them from anywhere that you have internet access. The integration with SkyDrive, which I mentioned before, provides a place where you can store some shared documents and access them from anywhere that you're located. So just be able to have an internet connection. So collaboration is social. There's personal sites. We'll show you how to get to those and what you can put into those. There's support for RSS feeds. Not only RSS feeds within the district, but RSS feeds from anywhere that you want to get information from, any type of news feed. You can build communities within your school, between schools, maybe across the entire district. That's all a function of how do you create your subsites and how do you assign permissions. And we have a section, I believe it's this afternoon, that will cover how to do permissions. So SharePoint 2013 includes improvements in the search engine, which I mentioned. Document management, which we're really not going to get into today. At some point, we're probably going to implement document management, if for no other reason, to get rid of these documents that are put into SharePoint and left there for years and never touched. That's essentially what document management will allow us to do. Make sure that we can get rid of old documents. Much better in terms of document sharing. One of the features that you can do with 2013, and as long as you have, I think you can do this with Office 2010, I know it will work with Office 2013, is you can open up a Word document and you can have multiple people edit the document at the same time. Within SharePoint 2013, if you're using just the Office web app feature to be able to open up the document, yes, definitely you can have multiple people share that document. Now, there are limitations. The limitations are the way the locks work in the new version of Word and Excel is that within Word, it only locks a paragraph at a time while you're editing, whereas the old version of Word locked the entire document. In Excel, instead of locking the entire spreadsheet, it locks only the individual cells that you're editing. Question?
If you have multiple people editing a document at the same time, how does it save? Or how will we have to save it?
When you save the information, when you say you're done and you're saving it back, it saves your updates.
So and they don't have to save using a different name or anything?
No.
Okay.
No. It keeps track of all the changes by person who made the changes. And in fact, when you're actually looking at the document, if you refresh the screen and they're working on a paragraph, you'll see, I think it's typically a vertical line in their initials. You could tell who they are. Business intelligence. The business intelligence part that I talked about before with using Excel, Power Pivot, Power View, and all the new Power Tools that are now available within Excel 2013. So essentially, collaboration is what you make of it and how you use it.